guys, and welcome to today's podcast. Today I have Cece with Cece Skin Studio. Super excited to chat it up today and hear all about your journey. So I want to just talk about first how long you've been an esthetician and where you started, kind of hear about your journey a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I tell everybody the amount of years that I have been an esthetician and the amount of years that I've been practicing are two different numbers. So when we kind of talked about this earlier off screen, we kind of said 22 years is how long I've been an esthetician. So I graduated high school with my esthetician license.
Wow.
So that's why that number is so big and impressive. However, as a mom, I've taken a lot of time off between having kids. I've taken years off here and there. So I think that 15-year number is probably more accurate of how many years of active working as an esthetician. So
okay,
it's two different numbers. But yeah, so I became a licensed esthetician in 2002 and started my career actually here in Arizona. So I went to a program in high school that did half day at school, and then the other half of the day you went to kind of a technical school, and that's where you got your esthetician license. So did that, left esthetician school, and honestly didn't feel super comfortable, which I'm sure everybody out there listening felt the same way. Mm-hmm. So I actually went into the makeup side of things, which no, I can't do your makeup now because the makeup that we were doing in 2002 is way different than now. It was a lot easier, I will say. Mm-hmm. So I, started my venture in makeup counters and did that for a little bit. I was a Clinique girl.
Wow.
Dishing out the bar of
soap. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I felt super special in my little white coat. I still laugh that they have
I know,
the white
doesn't it feel so professional when you're in a lab coat?
I know, you're all of a sudden a doctor. No, so I really excelled at that though because of my background in aesthetics. I actually sold a ton of skincare. Wow. So even though it was a makeup line, the skincare was sort of my niche, and that 3-step system that we all know and love as teenagers, I sold that like it was just the hottest thing ever. So had the opportunity at the time to go to a lot of training events and actually train a lot of people, and so that was really fun. And then I kind of went back and forth between different what are they called? Having a brain fart all of a sudden.
Side jobs as in
not side jobs. What
you
am I
worked
trying to
other
say?
jobs?
No. Chains. I
okay,
couldn't think
you
of the
worked
word
at chains. Like,
yeah.
like Massage Envy.
Yes, all the chains.
Okay.
Had some time doing that. And then I actually moved out of Arizona pretty quickly after. I got married really young. And my husband decided to do graduate school. And so that moved us away from Arizona. And that's where I really started to take breaks from aesthetics because, as you know, getting reciprocity in other states can be hard. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really spend a whole lot of time in any given state. So we did a couple years in Virginia. I didn't bother getting my license there. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we moved to California, and that was where I spent a bulk of time actually was practicing in California.
Wow.
And so in California, we were in the Bay Area, which I know we've talked about before, mm-hmm. but we were East Bay, so we were kind of south of Oakland in Dublin, Pleasanton, and I worked for chains there and did that. And I'll be honest, I wasn't super passionate about aesthetics during mm-hmm. those years. I was complacent and I was fine, but I was home raising babies.
Oh yeah, that's a hard season when you're trying to figure out raising kids, and then I think what type of esthetician you want to be. I talk about that all the time. It's you graduate and you are trying to figure out what is your niche essentially and what you enjoy and what brings you passion. I was similar. My first job was Massage Envy, so I did not enjoy doing spa facials all day long. I was why did I get into this career? I am not happy. So I can definitely relate in that way. Were the jobs that you worked, were they more spa-like, or were you doing more clinical treatments?
Not a ton of clinical work, definitely more of the Massage Envy, Hand and Stone, kind of dip my toes in all of those. But yeah, I would say spa. When you say Massage Envy is definitely more spa environment. You've got your massage therapists and that. But I will say, I talk about Hand and Stone, and actually Hand and Stone's a great franchise that I actually really enjoyed working for them. I got a chance to do a lot of chemical peels. Being in California, as well as I do, that modalities are a little bit limited. So I wasn't able to microneedle or do any dermaplaning, anything like that. So, I didn't get that type of training, but I did feel really confident in treating higher fits. So the Bay Area, we have most of my clients were about a fits 4 or 5. And so I got really confident in treating higher fits, which I really found valuable, later on, especially coming here where my fits have kind of changed. Like I'm definitely still on that lower end now, but I feel really confident being able to treat really all fits now, which I attest to just having that time in California. So it was mostly spa stuff. I don't know if I was like the best massager or like anything, but I think that I had a really steady clientele because I was really personable and people enjoyed maybe my presence. And so I always had really full books. I was getting booked regularly all the time. And so, it was a good opportunity, but we were there for about 8 years and eventually we moved back to Arizona.
Wow.
And then that's where I started my journey in aesthetics back in Arizona.
So did you start off, would you say number one, working for somebody else first is important as an esthetician, a baby esthetician?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually a firm believer in that. And no shade to anybody who has spent time, who has gone out on their own. I applaud you if you've been able to do that successfully. But I think so often it's really valuable to learn from someone else. And I always say make mistakes on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
You don't really want to be super fresh and be responsible or not have somebody to be a sounding board when you have those questions. Yeah. So I'm a really big advocate, and I say that, and I know people will hear that and go, well, gosh, it's so hard to get a job though. So that's why I go on my own. I only hire fresh estheticians. So actually, as an employer, I prefer a fresh esthetician because I prefer to mold them and not have to break their habits almost. So you have to it is harder to find an employer that'll take you on, but that's where chains are great. They will take you as a fresh esty, and your first job isn't going to be your last esthetician job. So take whatever you can get and just touch as many faces as you can. And hopefully not make too many mistakes, but if you do make them, you're going to have somebody there to help you through that and understand maybe how to be better next time.
No, I completely agree. And I was just so curious because I've had so many estheticians ask that question, and it's a hard battle. It is hard finding a job straight after aesthetic school. So that's why it's so important to like put yourself out there and make sure that you're like stepping out of your comfort zone and like pushing your way. Like I worked a receptionist job at a med spa and then transitioned my way into more clinical treatments and like got my hands on that way. But circling back as well. So about your journey, you moved back to Arizona, and when did you open up Cecia Skin?
So Cecia Skin opened in 2020, I think at the end of 2021. So we moved to Arizona in 2020. 2021, we decided to, I decided to just work on my own. At that point, thankfully, and I want to say this because I think it's really important, because a lot of times new estheticians see other people open businesses and they think like, oh my gosh, I need all the things and I need to have this big, beautiful building and all these. My husband provides for our family and he was able to provide for us. I could have very easily spent the money and gone and got this big location and started this big thing. But even I started in a 92 square foot room sharing. I shared that room with someone, and because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if my passion was there again. I wasn't sure like where I was going to go with aesthetics, if I wanted to lean into more clinical side, because now being in Arizona, all of a sudden I had the opportunity to do more advanced treatments, and I hadn't been able to do those in California. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I just started and I rented from someone, and pretty quickly on, I had a conversation with one of my best friends who is actually, has been an esthetician for as long as I have, but she has been an acne expert for, oh gosh, I think she's an OG, like 10 years.
Oh
like
my goodness.
She's been, and she's out of El Paso and has had really successful practice out there. And I just kind of hit her up and I was like, hey, so talk to me about this acne stuff that you're doing, because you're doing beautiful work. Like, is that something I should look into? And she was amazing. And she's like, 100%. It works. You don't have to sell product because the product will sell itself. And it feels really good to make people feel really good about their skin after feeling really not good about it with acne. And man, that was the best thing I ever did, because it really kickstarted like my passion in aesthetics. I don't think I ever had a passion for aesthetics until I started working with an acne client and feeling that joy of like helping someone and just being like, man, I'm like really good at this. Like I felt really empowered.
There's nothing better than like the confidence that people regain, especially obviously with acne. Like, I mean, it's life changing, and the results, like you can see the results, which is super rewarding. So face reality is what I'm assuming you're
face
talking
reality.
about. So
Yeah,
you
that was
started,
one of them.
what were the lines that you started with?
So the very first class that I actually took after moving back to Arizona, because it had been a few years since I had practiced at that point, was actually through SkinScript.
Okay.
So SkinScript has, and I talk about this class all the time, but it has a really nice, it's like a 2-part class, but it's meant for people who have either taken a break from aesthetics or somebody who's like a cosmetologist who actually wants to get into the skincare side.
Wow.
And it's a really robust class. Like you go back to aesthetic school a little bit, even maybe, I feel like sometimes I learned more in that one like day class than I did in all of aesthetic school. But I actually did that first. And so I started, the first couple months just doing custom facials with SkinScript. And by that point, I'd had a conversation with my friend Chelsea and had brought in Face Reality. And I just brought in models. I just said, I'm just going to try this, see if it works. And Face Reality was the first line that I brought in and really fell in love with treating acne.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. I think that's so cool. Did you personally give away, like, for your models, like, the treatments for free? Or did you do, like, because for me, I personally, like, went through, like, a whole acne transformation so I could learn the line and really figure it out. And I feel like you have to invest in that way.
Yeah, I love talking about this, actually, because this is the biggest question that I know you see and I see, like, in those Facebook groups. You have to invest in this. No one's going to just blindly invest when you don't have a portfolio to show for it. And so this is your marketing dollars, right? You may not be spending ad money, but this is your marketing dollars. Your portfolio is your marketing. And so what I did is I actually brought clients in and I treated them for free. But what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to give away the product. And the reason for that is I wanted them to be a long-term client. And if I started giving them product for free, what was going to keep them coming back, right?
Yes.
So I was okay with giving away my time, but I wasn't willing to give away necessarily the product. And so that's the way that I did it, and I did it successfully and had like 5 models, and that's the way. So, I didn't make much of anything the first, few months, but I had, by the end of that 3-month period, which the program works really well and really quickly, I had great results. And so slowly but surely people started coming in, but that's how I structured it. I've heard other people structure it differently. The only advice I would say is don't give away the product. Yeah. Your time, I don't know, like you don't want to, I feel like if you give away the product, what's going to keep them coming back or wanting a discount?
I mean, when you get anything for free, you're like, oh, I'll just get it another time. It's a different mentality, I feel like.
Yeah. You want them understanding the value of that home care, and you are, those are your marketing dollars, but at the same time, they need to have some investment in it too.
And you need somebody that understands that can keep up with the home care. Like if somebody like truthfully can't afford home care and you're like giving it away for free, I mean, truthfully, they're just not going to come back. And you want them to get results. Like you want people that are like essentially on the same page as you. Exactly. That's my viewpoint on that. So how would you say so you becoming an acne expert, like what would you say, like what are the things that people should look out for? Because I feel like everybody wants to treat acne and like what are the things that you would give what advice would you give for somebody who's like interested in becoming an acne expert?
So I will say, depending on what avenue you take, so if you take Face Reality's course, which I'm always going to advocate for because it's where I found success initially and the price point's so great, and it's a really easy program to learn, I think. Yeah. But I would say find a program or a line that resonates with you, whether that's Face Reality or I've taken a lot of courses at this point, but find a line that works for you and try to try to shift your thinking, because so much of what I mean, I don't know if you feel like this, but when I was going through Face Reality's course, it felt like I was learning brand new things.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. I had to sort of like put my old way of thinking and my old kind of hat of like how I would have treated acne before, like aside. And so I find that the people who have the hardest issues with the program itself are people who are muddying the waters and not just sticking to protocol. I say this all the time. I have such deep respect for Laura Kuski, who's actually the founder of that line. And I say she put all this effort into making this beautifully curated program. And she's been in the industry for 40 something years. Like, who am I to like know better than her, right? Like stick to the protocols.
I think you're amazing too.
Well, you're like, I just do what Face Reality does though, exactly, right? Like that's, and I think I remember talking, we talked about this a couple years ago, but I'm just like, I know it feels wrong sometimes to follow those protocols because in your head you're going, shouldn't it be this way or this way? But I promise, like actually follow them and you're actually going to see improvement. There's some nuances here and there that you'll learn over time. But
like Cecia I toner, I feel like that's one of them.
Yeah, Cecia I toner. Yeah, I mean, the protocols, I will say, definitely err on the side of being more cautious than aggressive. So if you get you get your protocol and you feel like it's too aggressive, it may be scale back, but don't scale up.
Yeah.
Because I would say it almost leans a little aggressive, but
start low and slow.
Yeah, but also don't mingle other lines right away. I think that's the biggest thing is people find that they get frustrated, and I'm like, well, why do you have, like, the program wasn't tested with those other products, and so you're throwing in a variable that you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Why throw in a variable? Stick to what the program is outlining for you.
Yeah.
And then if you don't see results, maybe go to something else or put something else in there, make a change, but give it a try first.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think for being an acne specialist, and I've had a lot of, estheticians ask me, they're like, I want to be able to treat acne. And truthfully, like, I wouldn't have been able to treat acne if I didn't invest in Face Reality and invest in models and make sure that I am taking people through the process so I know what to expect, because it is a lot of overwhelming information at first. Like, I remember I had to take that course. Like, I had to go slow with that course because my brain can only take so much at a time. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's such amazing information, but I had to go on my own pace with that. So becoming an acne expert is not for the weak, right?
No.
There's a lot of emotional aspects to it, and everyone's always, I think it's something that everybody always asks about. Now, when it comes to marketing your business, I know in another podcast or somewhere I saw that you went to other schools in the beginning. We kind of talked about this too in the beginning when you got here.
So when you think about acne, who's the first client that comes to mind, right? Teenagers, typically, because that's when they experience it. And so I'm a mom of teenagers. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and so I have been able to see kind of firsthand what the effects of acne. Luckily, my kids have me, so they've never dealt with acne too bad, but they have a great skincare regimen.
Love it.
But yeah, I thought, I don't know Instagram, and I encourage anybody. I sometimes want to delete all my old content because it's so cringy, it's so bad. But I also feel like I should leave it there so people can see, I didn't know what I was doing on Instagram, guys. I came back to aesthetics and went, wait, we're on Instagram?
Yeah.
What are we doing on here? Is this how we market? I didn't know. I didn't have any clue. And so I was trying to put out content there, and I do feel like Instagram's a great tool. However, I was trying to think out of the box, and my husband is a little bit of a marketing genius. He's a VP of marketing for a large company, and he's like, Instagram's not the only way. Social media is great, but it's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
You need to kind of scatter your marketing in other areas. And so I thought, well, what about the schools? And so what I did is, I had some vision into those opportunities because of having teenagers, but I paid, the boosters basically. So at one point this year, we actually didn't invest in it because we just had too many clients. And so we were like, okay, we need to slow this down. Yeah. But I invested in Highland, one of the local high schools. And if you ever went to a Highland football game or a choir concert, my ad was up there. And so, at the beginning of, for instance, a choir concert, they have this big screen and there's just ads rolling while you're waiting for your kid. What better opportunity than sitting there waiting for your kids to come on screen? And you have nothing else to do. You might be looking at your phone, and I assumed you'd be looking at your phone, so I put a QR code there for it too. But I had a before and after picture, and that was it. I had somebody with acne, a before and after picture, and it was very simple marketing. It was made on Canva. It was not fancy, but it just said got acne? Do you have acne? I can't remember exactly what it says. It's been up there.
To the point.
But it's very to the point, and it just had a QR code. And we got a lot of clients from that.
Wow.
That was a great opportunity. So think outside the box. The school thing is great. Now, I do a lot of donating to different, we have a couple of Christian schools in the area that I was just happened to treat clients there, and they'll reach out to me and be like, hey, do you want to donate? You can put any ads that you want into our stuff. And so 1 year I donated for 8th grade graduation, little kits, and they weren't even product. They were an ice roller and a little flyer in there, and we gave those out, and we have a ton of kids from that school.
Wow, that's
so
genius.
Think outside the box. It doesn't have to be all social media. Yes, I think social media is great, and you absolutely should have a social media presence, but
I agree. You shouldn't put everything into Instagram, because what if that app just crashed like TikTok,
I mean, that was it really was. It was a perfect example of why like you've got to diversify a little bit at least.
Totally. I mean, referrals. I mean, do you get a lot of referrals that way then?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know, after a while, and I say this, everyone listens, because I know Victoria does the same thing as I do. And so like you get an acne client and they are referring everybody. I tell everybody my favorite referral, not story, but my favorite referral is I actually treat 4 generations of one family. Down from, I started with the teenager, and then I started treating the mom, and then I started treating the grandma. And my most mature client is a 96-year-old woman, and that's great grandma. So never underestimate the power of just making, and I also say that too, like, treat those existing clients. Yes, you want to market, but make sure you're treating your existing clients like gold, because they are also your marketing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, treat them so good.
I agree. So obviously, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. So what are ways that like you make the experience different? Because I know you're like an extrovert, like you're a people person. You're just like, you're just so like liked naturally. For me, I'm like, you're so like, I could like have a conversation with you all day.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you do like in your treatment room to, you know, make the experience so that they come back?
You know, some of it I think is like personality. Yeah. And I am a firm believer that you're going to attract the right clients based on your personality. And so, you know, Liz, my employee, has a very different personality than I am. She's very warm, but she has a different energy, and she's gonna attract a different client than me. But I would say for me, just making your client feel so good and validated, listening. Yes, I talk a lot, but I really like to listen. Yeah. And get a little vulnerable with them, because you want to know, like, it's intimidating and it's hard for people to lay on your table and go barefaced and tell you all the things they don't like about their skin or things that make them feel self-conscious. But validating their feelings is huge. I think oftentimes when people tell you what they don't like about themselves, it's really easy for us to kind of go, oh no, you're beautiful, like it's fine. But that's not really what they want to hear. Yeah. You know, even though we might think like, gosh, like your skin's not that bad, you look great. But and this happens with acne clients a lot of times. People will see like my marketing and they'll see a really intense acne client and they'll be like, I know my acne's not that bad. And I always say, but is it bad to you? Does it feel like overwhelming for you? Because what that person deals with is different than what you're feeling, and you're still valid. You're still allowed to feel uncomfortable in your skin, and that's valid. And I want you to get to a place where you feel comfortable.
Yeah, so that's such a good point. And like, me personally, I don't ever like point out things in people's skin that they may not be aware about. Like, I mean, if somebody's like coming in for a facial and they have like some breakouts, like, I mean, I want to help them, but I think pointing out those things when people aren't ready is like such a vulnerable position to like be in. So how do you like say things kindly to clients when they're struggling with acne and they may say like, oh my gosh, my acne is so bad, you know? Like, how do you handle that situation of making clients feel comfortable and reassuring them?
Yeah, I think a good question to ask, and I actually ask all my acne clients this, and so if you're an acne expert and you're listening to this is a really good question to ask. The first thing I actually ask them is this a good acne day or a bad acne day for you? Because we all know if you have acne, some days you look great. Some days you're like, I don't like what's going on. My face looks amazing. And then the next day you're broken out. And so asking that question first, I think, is big, because sometimes they're coming in and they're like, I promise when I booked this appointment, my skin was awful and now it's looking okay. So asking that question, like, is this a normal breakout for you? Yeah. And that's also gaining insight for you, right? That's you taking notes to go, okay, it might be hormonal because they're getting it maybe during this time. So that's your kind of investigative period. Yeah. But, you know, I always say you can't give someone confidence. They have to earn that on their own, and they have to develop that on their own. So just allowing, and I try to, encourage them to trust the process. And I mean, you hear this probably too, but clients are like, I trust you with my life. Like, whatever you say, I will do. Yeah. And I always say, like, I didn't do this though. You did it. It's really about empowering them. And I tell them all the time, my job is not to have you in my treatment room every 30 days. Yeah. It really isn't. My job is to teach you to how to understand your skin and to teach you to use your products and your home care properly so that you feel empowered to know when it's time to come see me and when it's time to just like hang out. Like, I don't want clients to have to feel tethered to me necessarily. Yeah. So I think I empower clients, and I think that that's a thing that they feel really good about. And they come in and they'll know, like, the second they come in, they're like, okay, I'm broken out, but I did this, this, and this. And so, like, I know where it's coming from. And that's empowering for them because it's no longer this guessing game. They're kind of like, I knew I slept in my makeup 3 days in a row.
Yeah, and you're very direct, I feel, with your clients, which I think people really appreciate when they want to be told what to do, being assertive and making people feel comfortable, right? Like those are all like 3 things that I see you and hear you doing. And I mean, your practice speaks for itself. You just opened a storefront location. That's huge. I know last time I talked to you, you were like in a suite. So I want to hear like that whole process of what changed, like, because I know that you were like content in your suite, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, what made you like branch out to a storefront location? That's so exciting.
Yeah. If you actually like listened to me talk like 2 years ago, I was like, I'm fine. I'm just going to be by myself and it's fine. You know, I think it's okay to change your goals, where you see yourself with your business. And I think for me, I got to the point where I was doing a lot of trainings. I had people flying in to come do like mentorship days or whatever. And first of all, that's so flattering that people would like travel in to like sit with me. I'm like, are you sure?
I would.
Like, do I have anything to offer? But like, I thought to myself, man, like I'm teaching all these people. Why don't I teach my own people? You know, why don't I create something and have it come back to me, right? Like, not necessarily in like a profit way, but like I want, like, maybe I can create this thing where these people come and I feel really good about that because I have done that. I feel so confident. I always say like my team is amazing and we, you know, I spent a lot of time with my first employee, but it just grew. We were in that room. There was the 2 of us. She started, I trained her and she took off and is amazing and doing such good work. And eventually we were just like on top of each other. Like that room was booked like from sun up to sundown. And we just got to the point where I'm like, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to expand and open up a place. And right now we're in a space with the plastic surgeon. And so we have like our own entrance, our own reception area, but we kind of share like communal spaces, I guess is the best way to explain it. And it just kind of organically happened. I wasn't even really looking at the time. And then I was looking. I was looking for multiple rooms, and I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know if it was going to be in a suite situation and just maybe have 2 rooms within there. And this just kind of fell in my lap, to be honest. And I just thought,
how did you find this location?
I know. So Facebook.
Ooh, okay.
Like, so someone was like, look for rental space on Facebook. And so I was just like looking for office space because everyone's like, office space is cheaper and you get more square footage. But the problem I was running into is like sinks, right? State board, you have to have, in Arizona, you have to have sinks in every room, or if you have to have it was kind of a nightmare. And and again, I'm not one that goes all in financially on something. Like I'm okay with baby steps. I'm okay with slow growth. I don't need to like pop off and like, I'm totally fine with that. I think it's different too. At my age, like we're closer to retirement. My kids are getting ready to go off to college. I don't really want to spend a bunch of money if I don't have to. And so I didn't want to invest in building sinks and doing all these things and plumbing. And a lot of that gets really expensive. And so on Facebook, someone had it posted, the office manager of this location, and they were just looking for someone to rent space. And it had its own reception area. And it actually used to be a med spa. And the plastic surgeon that was originally there, he's getting ready to retire. A new plastic surgeon's taking over. But the new plastic surgeon didn't want the med spa part of it. And so they just decided to rent it out. And it was just kind of like serendipitous. And it's been such a good location. Like the surgeons that are there are fantastic. The staff is fantastic. It's been a good experience all the way around.
So have you been doing a lot of like referral with each other?
You know, not really yet. You know, we had like an injector that was in there at one point. And so she is getting ready to transition out and we're going to kind of fully take over. There's like 4 rooms. She had one of them still. And so I was kind of waiting because I didn't want him to feel obligated in those referrals because she did do some things that we did, like microneedling, perfect derma, and so I didn't want to put him in an awkward position. But yeah, that's definitely in the plans. Like we've thought about bringing in certain machines that would complement the services that they do for healing and so forth. And so it's in the plans for sure. But
that's exciting.
Luckily we have a good, healthy business, so we don't have to we're not living off of referrals in that way. But
yeah. And I think that on social media, and And this is my whole point of this podcast, is being like, open and vulnerable and like sharing the ins and outs of the industry. But like, what would you say, like, for somebody who is looking for a storefront location, like what's the most stressful part about it? Like, is there something that you would give like advice to somebody looking for a storefront or looking to further their business? Like, where did you feel like you were comfortable to make that step?
I think for us, and this may be different for other people, we have a pretty big e-commerce presence. So that's something we haven't really talked about yet, but we do a lot of e-commerce. And so for me, at one point, I had an entire like closet in my or it's like a walk-in closet of my house where it was all product, where I was like constantly bringing product from home. I just needed space for that. So like even one of our rooms in our new building is going to be just a product room. Like we need space for that, or to pack orders constantly. So for us, it came to the point where we needed another room for the esthetician, and that we needed another esthetician in there as well. So we needed to be able to work at the same time, basically. And we couldn't do that in the other location. But it had been 4 years, I think, at this point. So it didn't happen fast. It doesn't happen overnight. That's 4 years of building clientele and getting to a place where my books were full enough, or as full as I wanted them. That's another thing. Books being full is relative. To what your capacity. Have like one
client a week and say you're full.
That might be full for you.
Or like one day, I mean.
Yeah, and full for me has looked different too. Like I at one point was taking like 10 clients a day and killing myself, and I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it can look different for everybody, but for me that was full enough. Like I'm full enough for now. And so what to look for in a storefront, I would say location's big. So if you're already servicing clients in a certain area, I wouldn't veer too far.
Yeah.
I, strangely enough, have a large number of Scottsdale clients.
Wow.
Glendale, I think my furthest comes to me from Cave Creek.
Okay.
So I didn't want to be far from a freeway. And I didn't want to be like too far south because I get a lot of people coming from north. So like I had to consider all those things.
Oh yeah.
So location is big. Think about where your clients are coming from. Make sure it's not going to be inconvenient. You don't want to lose people if you can avoid it.
That's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
I think that's just like that right there. I'm like, that's the best advice, I feel like.
Yeah.
So your clients will obviously, it's an easy transition for them to follow you.
Yes.
So for you, like I want to talk about this. You are a Face Reality ambassador.
I'm an alumni now.
Oh my gosh.
We have a new name. I know. I am an ambassador.
Happen?
I'm always going to be an ambassador, but we're considered alumni after 2 years, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, I feel like that snuck up so quick. I want to talk about that. Like, what was the process like applying to be an ambassador, and how much has changed since then?
Yeah, so the ambassador program, I think it's actually coming up. So it'll be before this launches for sure, but it's coming up, I think, in the next like month, I want to say, those applications. It's literally just an application. It's changed. The application process has changed since I applied. Like I know last year they required video entries where it's just you. They want to know your personality.
Okay.
I think for anybody who's looking at potentially like wanting to become an ambassador, because this is a big question we get every time ambassador season rolls around. I get a lot of like DMs about this, and people are like, "What did you do?" Just be yourself.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the entire group of ambassadors, there's a lot of different personalities. We're all geographically in different areas, and not that they look at like geographic necessarily, like you can only have so many in Arizona or so many in California, but they are spread out because we're going to, you treat different clients in different capacities in different areas. But I don't know if I did anything. I just was myself, and I was passionate. I mean, even before I was an ambassador, I was always passionate about acne. Most of my content is related to acne because that's my ideal client. So that's who I'm speaking to on every post that I make. On everything that I do is always going to link back to the acne client. Yeah. And so I think naturally for Face Reality as a company, they saw that as, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, it's free marketing for them, right? Like, it's for them. I think that's what they saw. So I think if someone is looking to become an ambassador, I think making sure that you're actually treating acne clients is big, obviously, and that you're using the products because they want to see product knowledge and make sure that you understand, because we do teach at some of the trade shows, and people come to us for questions and things like that.
What does it look like being a Face Reality acne expert? Like, what are your not an acne expert, an ambassador, your new role? What does it look like? What are the requirements?
So alumni have a little bit different requirements than the ambassadors. Now, again, it's changed a little bit, but we do have deliverables. So kind of branded posts that we have to do. So We have content that's kind of monthly, so whatever the brand is kind of working on that month. So if it's a new product launch, or if it's summertime and we're talking about SPFs or any of that kind of stuff, we're asked to promote the brand in that way.
I'm assuming you get like early access to certain products.
We do.
Do you know, like, beforehand, like every year, do you guys meet up and figure out like what is the new product launch? What are the new product launches and things like that?
Yeah, so every year they have an ambassador retreat, and that's an opportunity for all the ambassadors to come back. We get to try a lot of the new products. So a lot of the products that have launched this year, like even the reformulated Daily 30, I got that like a year ago, I think. And so I was getting like lab samples for that, which is really fun. It's fun to be able to test it and kind of say your pros and cons about it. So yes, a lot of that, and then just education. They really look at you, and I say education over and over and over again because that is such a big thing for them. They want to make sure that you understand the products and understand how to utilize them.
Totally.
So you can speak to them confidently and not, misuse it or teach people how to misuse the product.
No, that's super cool. I love that. So for product lines, and so primarily I'm hearing like you started with Skin Script, then Face Reality, which I'm assuming was like majority of your clientele at that point.
Yeah.
How do you pick what products to bring on next? Like what product lines?
Yeah, I love this question because I've done it wrong before. So learn from my mistakes. Definitely trying the products first is huge. I had a kind of an unfortunate situation where I tried a product and it didn't work out well, and it was kind of costly to the business. I had to do a lot of refunds and things like that. So if you can learn anything from me, it's to give it time to test out a product, and also keep in mind, a rep's job is always going to be to tell you to bring on the entire line.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, though, you need to feel confident in that product, confident in selling that product, and so if you don't, product doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to carry it.
Exactly.
And if that's a deal breaker for that line, it might not be the line for you.
Yeah.
So for me, like for instance, Glymed's a great example of that. I do carry Glymed, but I probably carry 10% of the line. But the 10% that I do carry, I'm always like I don't how they have like tiers, like platinum or whatever.
Yes.
Like I'm always like a platinum seller or whatever because I carry so much of it and sell so much of what I do carry sells really well because I love it. And so if I love it, I know my clients will love it. So just deciding on who your client is too, that's huge. Do I need personally like a lot of anti-aging products or products that are for saggy necks? Not really. Yeah. Because I have a really young clientele. That's not the majority. So I'm not going to carry that. I'm not going to let that sit on my shelves. I actually pride myself in like, our shelves don't sit still. Yeah. And Elle, our new client coordinator, who's also a receptionist, she came in and she's just like, I cannot believe how much product we go through.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, we are getting shipments. She's like, because part of her job is to like restock the shelves. And she's like, I cannot believe. And she goes, and all of it like moves. I'm like, yeah, I don't bring in stuff. If it's not going to move, I don't want it on my shelves because, and if I know it's not moving, I get rid of it. Because I'm like, clients aren't passionate about it. I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah, then you're just sitting in it, investing in that, $2,000 order or whatever it is. And it's just like, for
what?
Money. Yeah.
It's money on your shelves.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you brought on new aesthetics as well, I saw.
Yeah, I do. I've only kept like a handful of those products. It's nobody knows this line. I feel like it's like this obscure line, but.
No, I've seen it and I feel like a lot more people are like getting to know that line. Yeah. So I was just curious how you discovered that.
I don't even know. I think a rep reached out. Okay. And I was curious, and it's a line out of Israel actually.
Wow.
And it's really, really, really strong. It's very like I think they call it a pharmaceutical line or a paraceutical line, I think is what they say. It's pretty strong stuff, and so it's definitely one that they don't really want you selling online because it's so strong you could like sell it to the wrong person and really damage their skin.
Do you do a lot of online sales then?
I do a lot of online sales. That's one that we have to have invoiced. Okay. Like like Skin Better makes you invoice or whatever, same thing. So they don't let you sell online or anything like that. So you can have it on there, but you can't have like an add to cart option. So yeah, that's one line we sell, and then we can say it because I guess it's gonna come out. Skin Better is a new line that we just decided to bring on.
I'm so happy for you.
I know. I was talking to like a couple of my friends, and they're like, "Finally!"
I know.
I'm like, "Listen, it's a huge line. It took me a long time to go through it and to learn how to make the best use out of it with the products that I do carry, because I always want to make sure that when I bring something in, I can feel confident in how the clients are going to use it. Yeah. And be able to speak to that usage confidently for them.
I mean, I love that you have your your clientele, you started with acne, and you're literally filling in holes and selling what you carry to your clients.
Yeah.
Now, for Skin Better, I know that a lot of people, which I have my own thoughts on clearing acne with Skin Better. I personally don't use it, but I do cherry pick certain products.
Yeah.
What is your thought process?
So
on
that's been the hardest part, is figuring it out. So I think I'm one of the ones, and we've maybe talked about this. I know like they love clearing serum for acne. I actually prefer the overnight cream for
I think
acne
it's way
clients.
better.
I'm a glycolic stan. Like I love, nobody talks about her enough. She's underappreciated.
You should have a shirt that says like, I'm obsessed with glycolic.
And if you look, like people will always see like before and afters with like non-inflamed acne, and they're like, how did you do that? I'm like, let glycolic enter the chat into your life, because she will change your life.
Oh my gosh.
And
do
so
you
I
usually start with like 5 or 8%? Like what is their?
It depends. So I very rarely, in fact, I explained it, I think, in like a Facebook group once, because someone was like, when to use this and to use that. And I actually just showed them pictures. I said, this client, I started with glycolic. This client is a Mandelic client, because they were like, when do I use it, when I don't? I always start with 5. Because glycolic's a little finicky, so you don't want to be like starting at the highest. Yeah. And I phase it in the same way that I would Mandelic. So any other AHA, I'm going to phase it in pretty similarly.
So basically like the same concept of any face reality product or any product line.
Nothing revolutionary I'm doing with that. Just the regular boring way to do it. But I personally like glycolic for what I find to be the harder acne to deal with, which is that non-inflamed. A lot of times we know, and I know we can calm inflammation pretty fast. Yeah. It's that leftover kind of pebbly bits that get left over that you could be extracting all day, and it just fills back up, where I feel like glycolic does a really nice job, and it's helps with ceramide production, and we know non-inflamed acne can be kind of a product of dehydration in the skin, and so it helps with that.
Yeah.
And then it has the lactic too, which is a beautiful
lactic
acid.
Is so nice.
Lactics?
It's so nice.
It is.
So do you prefer that over like vitamin A for non-inflamed, or does it just depend on the client?
Depends. I actually don't typically introduce vitamin A for non-inflamed,
because I know that's like huge on face realities. Like
that's their maturation arrest protocol. Is to do like a glycolic vitamin A. Yeah. And technically, and this is like a hot topic too, vitamin A, theirs is encapsulated, and if you have an encapsulated form of vitamin A, you actually can introduce it in the morning, which is like, you just have to be careful with sun. Like you want to make sure to put sunscreen on. And their protocol has you do it in the beginning or in the morning. I typically actually don't phase it in until the end. Yeah. And every like picture that you've ever seen of mine of non-inflamed, that they don't actually use retinol until the end. Yeah. And really by the end, it's for scarring purposes, not even for the inflamed acne. Yeah. I'm usually using like a really low percentage BPO and glycolic. Yeah, I know. I just see like so much, like we've talked about in the Facebook group. So I'm always so curious about these little questions that I see people ask, and I'm like, well, why do you do it a certain way? Yeah. I think a lot of people have these questions. Yeah. So for the future of Cecia Skin, like where do you see it going? Do you want to hire on more employees or? Yes. So we will expand. I don't think we'll ever have a huge team. I think we'll always have a semi-small team. But I actually have a lot of stuff in the works. Like the next year is going to be expanding quite a bit, but it's not in the way that you think. Okay. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to see all about it. Yeah. My husband's popping in to help with some of this stuff, and I have like stuff on the back end that I know people aren't going to expect, but we have a lot in store, and I'm thinking long term. And that's where my thinking has kind of shifted, I think. But so yes, we're still going to be in the treatment room. Yes, we're still going to be doing that, but we have a lot outside of the treatment room that we're going to be doing that's going to look way different. That's so exciting. Yeah. I'm so happy for you. Thank you. I think this was such a fun conversation. The last question I always like to ask everybody is like, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's fresh out of school, or somebody, fresh out of school? Yeah, I would say, you're going to not feel confident right away. And that's okay. We all felt self-conscious, not good enough at our job. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to feel like that. Use that nervousness and that anxiety and lean into it. I know this is cliche, but like nothing worth doing is ever easy. It's always going to be a little bit hard. There's always going to be that pushback, maybe internally, that you have. And there's so many people that get their license and never practice. Yeah. And don't be that person. You spent the time, and just get whatever job you can. If you're waxing, whatever it is that you're doing, that even if it's not going to be your end goal, it will teach you how to interact with clients. It will teach you how to look at skin, different types of skin too. You know, you don't want to be treating the same type of skin all the time. And those opportunities will allow you to really touch a lot of different skin and see a lot of different personalities and learning how to communicate with those people.
Totally. And so do you really, last question,
yes,
I promise.
Yes, no, you're good.
Are there any courses that you would recommend for any estheticians?
Yes. So if you are interested, I'm just going to kind of talk on the acne side of it, but I do really love Face Reality's course, of course. However, if you want like a really in-depth course on acne that may just like blow your mind and make you feel overwhelmed, but in a good way, Katie Marshall is a fantastic resource. She's actually a nutritionist and acne specialist out of Canada.
Okay.
And her course is called MBK, and I'll give you a link for this too, but she has a course that really dives deep into acne, and it does dive into the nutrition side a lot, and not necessarily that we can speak on all of that. You know, we have what we can talk about when it comes to nutrition, but it's a lot of insight for you to understand. It is the most robust, overwhelming, again, in like the best way possible course on acne that I've ever taken.
Amazing.
Very science-based, it's holistic. So if you're interested in like the holistic approach too, that'll be there for you, but it's also very scientific.
Okay.
And so she kind of melds those two really, really well. Those are great. Hers is really the best in my opinion. Douglas Preston has a great course too. Those are like the two I can think about. And then just be boring and read clinical studies like I do.
Yes, I love it.
I love a good clinical study.
Reach out, right? Like to people.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst people can do? Say no.
Yeah, and just, you know, ask questions. I will say this, ask questions, but I think you learn more when you do your own research. And so be inquisitive, but research too before you start asking, because I think that you retain more and you learn more when you kind of do your own research. And then if you want to ask somebody, like just to be a sounding board about something you're thinking about, absolutely. But research.
Yes. Well, you are just filled with so much knowledge. You know how
so
much
sweet.
I love you, and
love
you're
you.
just so sweet. You're such a breath of fresh air to be around. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Where can people find you?
What's my Instagrams? At CC Skin Studio on Instagram and everywhere else. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll make sure to link it below as well. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.